Passage 5. Listen to part of a discussion in an art appreciation class. The professor is discussing French landscape artists. The subject of landscape artists.
I want to continue with the subject of landscape artists. In France during the mid-1800s, there was a school of artists known as the Barbizon School. They were working in France in the village of Barbizon. Their goal was to make rural art seem more real. This school of artists was breaking away from academic art which was being taught in Europe because that type of art was characterized by use of historical and mythological characters and events. Academic art also had a moralistic tone, and the artists of the Barbizon School wanted nature and the countryside to more truly represent life as it was.
So could they be called realists?
Well, actually, they were part of the French realist movement. You know, realism looks at art in an objective manner. The realists take a subject and paint it as they see it. They don't idealize their subjects. They, the realists, also were not happy with the style of painting taught by the academics. And because the Barbizon School artists were also realists, they were part of the influence on the Impressionists. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but remember that the Barbizon School of Artists was part of the realism movement, that they influenced the Impressionists, and they also are thought to have been the beginning of modernism because they were such individualist thinkers and painters.
So, what you are saying is that if an artist saw a field of cows or horses, a stream, and some trees, he would paint them just as he saw them, sort of like true to life, and like nature really is?
Exactly. And some of the artists of the Barbizon School also painted people they saw in rural settings. They showed the working classes in their surroundings. If they were farmers or woodsmen, the artist showed them as they were, their surroundings, their clothing, their expressions, while working, everything. A natural and straightforward look. And of course they were rejected by the great salons of Paris, because they were challenging and trying to change the style of art, which was popular and accepted at that time period.
Well, were there any famous Barbizon School artists?
Of course. Maybe not as famous as Rembrandt or Van Gogh or Picasso, but very important and well known. Have any of you read or heard about any names associated with the Barbizon School? No? Well, the man who led the movement was Theodore Rouseau. Now, you have all heard of the French philosopher Rousseau, but they are not one and the same.
Well, are there any monuments or tributes to these French painters to help make them famous?
I don't know about monuments, but the little village of Barbizon and the area around the village have some museums and events that honor the lives of some of these painters. You know, Barbizon has a population of under 2,000 people and is about an hour's drive from Paris. It is near the edge of the Fontainebleau forest and is somewhat rural. The works of some of the realists are also exhibited in the area. Barbizon is referred to as the village of artists, and the people of the Barbizon area are proud of this heritage. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about Rousseau.
I'm sorry, how do you spell Rousseau?
It's spelled Roussesseau. Theodore Rouseau was born in Barbizon in 1812. He loved the tranquil village life, and he loved nature, even as a child. In his younger years, he worked for a while at a sawmill, but then he began painting. He studied with artists and learned the academic style, but he wanted to paint nature as he saw it, not with mythological characters or in a stylized manner. He wanted his paintings to be pure landscapes as they actually were. The academic landscape artist rejected his way of thinking, and he was no longer permitted to have his paintings exhibited at the Salon in Paris.
Well, did he have any way to challenge the Salon?
And were there actually people who liked his work?
Well, he didn't challenge the Salon. He kept his Paris studio and continued painting there during the winters, but he did return to his village in the summers and begin associating with others who had the same beliefs about paintings that he did.
Was he famous at this time?
And was he earning any money for living expenses?
Well, yes to both questions. He was becoming famous, but he was still really poor by our standards. It was after some of these rejections that he formed the Barbizon School. After the French Revolution in 1848, Rousseau began to be recognized internationally as an excellent artist. If you remember the plight of the common people and their challenges to nobility during the times of the Revolution, you can understand why rural scenes and common people would become popular paintings. Although he gained international recognition, he remained in Barbizon and died there in 1867.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer.
Number 24. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 25. How does the professor introduce the discussion? Number 26. What is not true about Rousseau? Click on two answers. Number 27. According to the discussion, what did the Barbizon School think was wrong with the academic school of painting?
Listen again to part of the discussion, then answer the question.
And of course they were rejected by the great salons of Paris because they were challenging and trying to change the style of art which was popular and accepted at that time period.
Number 28. What does the professor mean when she says this?
And of course they were rejected by the great salons.
Listen again to part of the discussion, then answer the question.
Was he famous at this time?
And was he earning any money for living expenses?
Number 29. What can be inferred about the students?